In this video, I'll demonstrate how to create and configure a new protocol for analyzing qualitative Intelliflex multiplex data with MyAssays Desktop Pro in accordance with the SARS-CoV-2 multi-analyte IgG assay. I have an example dataset collected using the Luminex Intelliflex system and exported as a CSV file. Opening the file, we can see we have the plate geometry column, sample ID, and well location, followed by the analyte name, median, and count for each analyte. For more information on exporting your data from the Intelliflex for import into MyAssays Desktop, please see the below video. This data can be automatically imported into MyAssays Desktop. First, I'll open the MyAssays Desktop Explorer and select the New Protocol option to open the New Protocol wizard. Because this is a multiplex assay, I'll select the Create Multiplex Assay checkbox. I'll select the option that my data is in a file or spread across multiple files. Next, I'll browse for and select my measurement data file. Leaving the Automatically Import Measurement Data checkbox selected, I'll press Next. Here we can select which import method should be used. The Luminex All option will import the median and count data along with any associated field data, such as well type. The Luminex Intelliflex Median Count option will import only the median and count data. I'll select this option and press Next. On the next step, we can see the data has been successfully imported. The median and count values are imported as two separate matrices, and we can review the results for each analyte by using the Analyte drop-down box. Any metadata included in the measurement file has also been imported and appears on the Meta tab. Next, we can select the sample types used in our assay. For this assay, unknown and blank samples are used. Next, we can specify the plate layout used in our assay. In this case, 11 samples are run in duplicate vertically, followed by a blank sample also in duplicate. We can select from existing layouts, edit one of the existing layouts, or select Create to create a new layout from scratch. For more information on using the plate layout editor, please see the associated video. I'll select the layout matching my assay and press Next. Here we can again review the data imported, this time with a plate overlay. Again, we can switch between the different analytes using the Analyte drop-down box. Here we can add a name and optional description to our protocol. I'll add the name Intelliflex SARS-CoV-2 multi-analyte IgG. On the final step, we can review the protocol configuration summary and press Finish to launch our protocol. With our results calculated, we can see both the median and count values for each of the analytes. We can separate these tables by analyte by navigating to the Properties, Report tab, and selecting the Sample Table 1 report element. I'll add the title Analyte Name surrounded by curly brackets, which will use the imported analyte names as the title of the sample tables, and I'll add the same for the sheet name. Now when we recalculate, you can see the sample tables are located on their analyte-specific sheet and titled with the analyte name. Because this assay is qualitative, we'll use a couple of different methods to present the results. The first of which is sample labeling. The second is a custom sample table to report the overall results. For more general information on configuring sample labels, please see the below video. There are several conditions that must be met to ensure the assay is valid. The first of which is that the count for all analytes should be greater than 75. Because this should apply to each individual analyte, I'd like to include this information on the analyte's own sample table as opposed to the overall results table. To do this, I'll add an expression by matrix transform under Properties, Transforms. This will essentially serve as a placeholder to allow me to apply a sample label while still displaying the numerical count value. I'll select Count as the input data matrix and name the output matrix Count greater than 75. I'll leave the matrix expression set to X. On the Matrices tab, I'll select the Count greater than 75 matrix and open the Sample Labels drop-down box. I'll select Add, and the condition for our first rule will be X is greater than 75 with the label OK. I'll add another sample label And this time, the condition will be x is less than or equal to 75 with the label insufficient count. So these labels will display OK for samples with acceptable count values and insufficient count for samples with unacceptable count values. Let's recalculate. So on our report, you can see the addition of a new column to the sample table, showing labels based on whether the count is sufficient. If we look at this analyte here, we can see we have 2 sample replicates with insufficient count. Now that we've included the condition I'd like to appear in each of the analyte's own sample tables, for the rest of the assay criteria, I would like this information to appear in a separate, single sample table displaying the overall results. To do this, I'll navigate to the Properties, Report tab, and select Add Element. I'll select to add the Sample Table Custom Columns report element. I'd like this element to appear first on my report, so I'll move the Sample Table Custom Columns report element to the top of my report. I'll add the sheet name Overall Results so that it'll appear on its own separate sheet. Because we're working with a multiplex assay, our protocol has multiple containers or analytes. The default configuration is to include this sample table with each analyte. However, I'd only like this to appear once on our report. So, from the Include For drop-down box, I'll select First Analyte. Next, I'll select Edit to edit the columns contained in this sample table. Our second criteria for this assay is that the background must be less than 300. The background is represented by analyte B001, so I'll select Add Column and add a qualification column. I'll add the custom name Background Less Than 300. I'd like this to be reported for each of the sample replicates, so I'll select List from the Replicates drop-down box. Next, we'll configure the reference. This is the data that will be used in the rule conditions. I'll leave the reference name set to A, and for this condition, the RP1 median matrix will be used, so I'll leave that setting as well. Next, using the analyte drop-down box, I'll select B001 for our background analyte. Next, we'll configure the rule conditions. You'll notice these are very similar to the sample label conditions we configured previously. However, these will be written in terms of A, or in other words, our reference name. The first condition will be A is less than 300 with the label OK. The second condition will be A is greater than or equal to 300 with the label High Background. Now we'll configure the 3 control conditions that should be met for this assay. First, the MFI of the IgG control must be greater than 2500. The second condition specifies the IgA control must be less than or equal to 0.8 when divided by the MFI of the IgG control. Third, the MFI of the IgM control must be less than or equal to 0.5 when divided by the IgG control. To add the first condition, I'll select Add Column and select Qualification. I'll add the custom name IgG control and select List from the Replicates drop-down box. I'll leave the reference name set to A, and for this condition, the RP1 median matrix will be used, so I'll leave that setting again. Now, using the analyte drop-down box, I'll select G001 for our IgG control analyte. Now let's configure the rule conditions. The first condition will be A is greater than 2500 with the label Pass. The second condition, A is less than or equal to 2500 with the label Fail. Now to add the second condition, I'll again select Add Column and add a qualification column. The custom name for this column will be IgA control, and I'll again select List. For this qualification, we'll be adding 2 references. The first, I'll name A, using the RP1 median matrix, and I'll select the IgG control G001 from the analyte drop-down box. The second reference will be named B, again using the RP1 median data, but this time I'll select A001, the IgA control from the analyte drop-down box. Now for our rule conditions. The criteria is that the A control must be less than or equal to 0.8 when divided by the IgG control. So looking at the references we've specified, the first condition will be B divided by A is less than or equal to 0.8 with the label Pass. The second condition will be B divided by A is greater than 0.8 with the label fail. For our last control column, I'll again add a qualification column with the custom name IGM control, again selecting List from the Replicates drop-down box. We'll again be configuring two references similar to the IGA control. For the A reference, we'll again use the median data and Analyte G001. For the B reference, we'll again use the median data, but this time for the analyte, we'll select M001 or the IGM control. This criteria states the IGM control must be less than or equal to 0.5 when divided by the IgG control. So again, looking at our references, the first rule condition will be B divided by A less than or equal to 0.5 with the label pass. The second condition, B divided by A greater than 0.5 with the label fail. Now our control criteria has been added to the custom sample table. Next, let's add the interpretation results for each of the analytes. For each analyte, there is a lot-specific threshold for returning positive or negative results. For my kit lot, the threshold for denoting positive or negative results is a median value of 700. We could just go ahead and configure the rules with a value of 700 hard-coded into the conditions. However, this would take several steps to change. Because this value could change with each lot number, I'll employ the use of macros to help me to configure the rule conditions using a threshold value that can be updated in a single place and applied to all conditions. For more information on using macros, please see the associated video. I'll save the changes to the sample table custom columns report element we've configured thus far and navigate to the XML tab. I'll add a new macro named threshold with the value 700. I'll apply the changes and navigate back to the sample table custom columns report element and select Edit to open the sample table column editor. So now let's add the last three columns to this sample table. I'll add a new qualification column with the custom name N001. Again, I'll select List from the Replicates drop-down box. This reference will again use the RP1 median data, and the analyte will be N001. The first rule condition will be A is greater than threshold surrounded by curly brackets. This will reference the macro we've just created. I'll add the label positive. The second condition will be A is less than or equal to threshold, again surrounded by curly brackets, with the label negative. For our next analyte, I'll add another qualification column with the custom name R001. Again, select List, and for the reference, we'll again use the median data for analyte R001. And the rule conditions for this analyte will be the same. A is greater than threshold with the label positive, and the second condition, A is less than or equal to threshold with the label negative. And finally, for our last column, I'll again add a qualification column with the custom name S001, select List, and this time, for our reference again on the median data, we'll select S001 as the analyte. Our rule conditions will again be the same. A is greater than threshold with the label positive, A is less than or equal to threshold, should be labeled negative. Let's save our changes and recalculate. On our report, you can see the addition of a new overall results sheet as the first sheet on our report. You can see our custom sample table displaying the results for our background and control conditions, as well as the positive and negative results for N001, R001, and S001. I'd like to make an additional change here. I want these positive results to really stand out. So back on the Properties Report tab, I'll again select Edit. And to each of these qualification columns, for the positive condition, I'll change the text color to green. Let's save the changes and recalculate. So now on our report, you can see those positive results really stand out just by adding a simple formatting change to the text. Now that we've completely configured our qualitative multiplex data analysis from scratch, let's say we get a new kit lot in with a different threshold value. Remember, because we've configured the threshold values using a macro, we only have to make that change in one location. For illustrative purposes, my new threshold value is 100 instead of 700. So I'll open the Properties, XML tab, and change our macro threshold value from 700 to 100. I'll apply our changes, and let's recalculate. Here you can see the results have automatically been updated for us. You can download a copy of this protocol for your own use from the below link. If you have any questions about how to create a qualitative multiplex protocol using MyAssays Desktop, please email us at support@myassays.com.